So welcome back, and what we're going to do now is to give you your first attendance post or your required reply that is a graded item for this class. So as you can see, I'm here. You've already clicked into week 1 attendance and you're viewing the video. But what I want you to see is that this, starting to understand this idea of the way the course is organized, that you have to complete these 3 items in sequence, and then you'll get a checkbox. And depending on when you've come in, I may actually already have week 2 available. So let's check out week 1. All right. So this week, there's going to be a setup step that you're going to do, but it is a graded step. So there's an outcome for this step. And what's important to understand is the timing of this issue. And to kind of clarify this, let me just go back and show you. Like your attendance is due on the first day of the semester, okay? And in this case, I'll have a couple things that you'll reply with, but there's not really any necessarily coursework yet. But for these 2 items that are due on Thursday night, and this is the pattern that you will see in my class, a Monday night and a Thursday night item. Now, the way I work is that I don't make things unavailable at midnight when they're scheduled to be due, and as long as they're there when I wake up the next morning, I don't consider them late. But thereafter, they are late. I do late grade, and again, the benefit of checking the syllabus is see the other options you may have. But more importantly here, I just want you to see kind of how this week goes. And because it's the way the course will generally go, unless there's a holiday, which, by the way, in week 2 there's a Monday holiday. So when there's a holiday, I will move the due date to the next day. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up here is that you have a setup of a development environment, okay? And you can't do this item until you have given me your GitHub username and accepted the invite. So that's why timing is important, right? So if you're coming in late, maybe just, for whatever reason, just know that the sooner you do this, because I have to actually do something, and your schedule and my schedule are probably different, okay? That's just kind of the way things go. They are probably different. So I'm an early morning, I shut off around 6. So if you're coming in around 8 and asking for me to add you or invite you, it won't happen until the next morning. So just be aware of that cycle, but also understand that I grade each morning. And this is something you'll get used to going forward. And one of the things in this attendance I'll talk about is there's a real benefit to working ahead, because if you submit something, I review it, give you feedback, you can fix it and get those points back as long as you do it by the due date. All right, so let's go back in here. So first, that's the thing, is in order for you to do the next item, which is due Thursday night, you need to have given me that username in the welcome. I've invited you, you've accepted it. And I've given a link here because I also talk about this in the next item, which is the timing. And now I've talked about the timing of the assignments in week 1. So hopefully you got that. Now, on the setup of the development environment, there is 2 ways more, but in this course we're going to focus on 2 options to set up your development environment. And in this case, for this class, I'm going to recommend that students use CodeSpace, which is a built-in feature of GitHub, thank you very much, that gives you a virtualized slice of a computer that will be out on the cloud. Therefore, the 2 images, right? And it is accessible from anywhere, which is really awesome. But there may be some of you who have enough experience that you're like, you know what, I want to set up local. And in this case, you might wonder, well, what's the things I would need to consider for these 2 different options? One is, SQLite, which is what we're going to use for this course, and we'll get to that actually in the last item for this week, is actually get introduced to some concepts around it. But just the program itself isn't loaded on all computers. And so you would need to install it. Now, is it a complicated install? Not necessarily, but it's going to modify some paths and some other things on your computer. And so for students at this beginning level, I don't recommend it yet. Now, as we go through the semester, if you want to convert to local, you totally could. Okay. Now there is a downside to CodeSpace. The CodeSpace is limited to 120 hours of actual use time. And you'll hear me talk about in that video that there is a really beneficial skill or hygiene you could have around your code space, which is to stop it so those hours don't tick away. I've only had a couple of students last semester run into this 120, and it's a monthly limit, and it resets at the end of the month. So I also give you links to check it so you know how that how those hours are being used. But the important thing is just stop it when you've done, or when you're finished coding for the day. Okay, so now, I know I just briefly talked about this, but I go over it more in the assignment. I just want you to know I recommend you actually go in there and do CodeSpace. Now, I'm actually looking at Canvas as a student, so I'm going to leave this because I actually want to show you what this next item looks like. Okay, because this is the next item that once you do the reply, oh, that's right. I thought I left student view. Okay, took it a minute there. So this is what it looks like when you get to the next item after, and we'll go back and look at what you have to do, but I'm just letting you know. So what I've done here, and again, if you're taking other courses from me, this is organized a little differently, but I've given you links to, like, if you're doing local or CodeSpace, you do this step. If you're doing CodeSpace, you do this step and this step. If you're doing local, then you have some things to do here. Now, I don't go over the SQL install. That's something you could reach out to me and talk about. The only reason I include this, and I don't want this to be confusing, is for those students who might want that option. I want you to have it. And then at the very end, there is a way you will submit your assignment, okay? And there'll be a video and all of these have videos associated with them. So even though, and if you scroll through this item, you're being like, oh my God, there's so much information. The reason I do the quick links is to give you that ability to go through it as I've suggested in this case, okay? So again, for this course, for your class, I recommend students start with CodeSpace, and if they want to convert, come talk to me. I'd be happy to help you with that. Okay, all right, so let's actually go back now. I'm going to go back to the student view, and I'm just previewing that item, and now I'll go back to and this is what you could see if you tried to view something before you had the ability. Okay, so now I've gone over that, and I've gone over the benefits of working ahead, and I've suggested CodeSpace should be the way you go. Now, in this case, we're moving into what you're going to do for the grade here, right? Because you get graded on attendance. Not only do I use it for reporting, as I've said, but also, I do it to also kind of connect with you about some important concepts. And there's a concept we'll start with that was really important that I talked about in the welcome video, and I want to see, and you're welcome to go back and review that or ask me. So did you understand my comments about generative AI? And so maybe it's, what is generative AI, right? What is this, right? We have this new amazing technology. Also, there's downsides. It's not always right by any means. And so it can definitely code SQL, no doubt about it. But I talked about the importance of learning to code, right? And the technical interview. So like in this case, you can either ask me a question about this topic, or, right, you can give me your view. Maybe you understood it and you had some view about that. That's worth 30 points. Did you understand the local versus cloud, or code space, I should put in quotes here, of the setup of the development environment? Okay, was there any questions, right? Again, ask me a question or give me your review of this topic. And also, you could also tell me which one you're going to choose. I suspect, I hope, I don't hope, I just suspect most of you, because I've made a pretty strong suggestion, you do code space. Okay, so now that's worth 30 points. And in this case, the next item is introduce yourself. Tell us why you're taking this course. What program are you in? Or some people may just be here to gain the skill. That's cool too, right? So that'll be where, and tell us a little, introduce yourself to the class. And then reply to 2 of your fellow classmates with substantive replies. What that means is don't just put a one-line sentence, be a little more interactive, because this is the idea, and especially, and I think I'm going to talk about this right now because it is good to talk about. So in this course for this first week, and it's good to get to know these icons, is like, here's our discussion this week, and this is why I grade and give this points, is that this is our discussion. We don't have any other discussion this week. So this is a chance for you to get to know your classmates. These 2 items, and the icons are different, are a submission. You actually submit something to show you did the work in this case, okay? So I want you to know when you're looking at these things, see what they are. And generally, this is the way our class goes. There's a weekly attendance video that is a discussion, replying to me for points, and then there's some kind of submission for those following assignments for that week. And again, things fall on Monday night, and they fall on Thursday night. I grade every day. But of course, Tuesday morning when I wake up, if you haven't submitted something, I put a 0 in your grade to let you know, hey, this wasn't submitted. So you always know where you're at with this class. That's an important thing about taking any class, but boy, on an online class, to understand where you're at is way important. Okay, so hopefully you understand what you need to do this reply, okay, what's required. And by the way, I think if you do the reply and at least do your part of this, you can come back later and do the replies to your fellow students. I believe it will just go ahead and open the next item as soon as you do that. It doesn't require you to have done the 2 replies, but get them done. And you may see me, that's the other thing, I may make a comment in your grade book that said, oh great, I see your reply, I'll finish grading once you're I see your post, it included all the required content, and I will complete grading once your replies are done. There may be something like that, just to let you know that I looked at it, and if it's missing something, which is the idea, the benefit of working ahead. Okay, I hope you feel like you have a good understanding of this week. It's time to do that first reply, and then go ahead. And again, I recommend sooner rather than later based on the week. Remember, this is due Monday. This set up the dev environment could take a little bit to, I don't think it's that bad actually. I think hopefully just following along, and also you learn some really important concepts this in setting up the dev environment, which is how to use the Git workflow. These are way important concepts. They'll be used throughout the course. All right, time to move on. Have a good one.